Today, actress and filmmaker Hailey Boucher and I talk about faith, film, and the role of darkness in art. She's a convert and a new mom. This is going to be a one of a kind chat. So go grab a coffee and sit down because we need to talk. Today on Catholic Homework, I'm hanging with Catholic mom Hailey Boucher, talented actress and founder of Lioness Studios, an eclectic and bold media and film company. She operates with her husband Dominic. Hey Hailey, welcome to Catholic Homework.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. So I'm
Good.
so excited to have you here today. So please share a little bit about your background, how you got started in film, and what your life is like as an ambitious new mom balancing it all.
Okay. Well, I've got my baby with me, so I'm sure you'll hear her through the interview. But yeah, I run a film company with my husband, and we also have a bunch of other side projects. I am illustrating children's books as well. And it is crazy and awesome, and just throwing motherhood into it all has been awesome. I don't a challenge for sure, but really, really beautiful and wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. She's
Yeah.
smiling at me.
Yeah. So when did you have your baby?
He's 7 months old as of yesterday.
7 months old, your first child, right? So this is
Yeah.
parenting while working and doing all the things is a relatively new thing for you then.
It is. Yeah. I haven't really been around a lot of babies. I've got one niece and one nephew, and that was it. So those were my first baby experiences before having my own. Um, It's been, I think, a huge blessing that both my husband and I work from home. I think that's like how I'm still able to work because I'm basically full-time at home with her, but I'm also just working kind of like this. Like I just kind of hold her and we hang out and I do stuff on my computer all day and um yeah.
Yeah, so how has your day changed from what it was like uh, and how you are doing it all now?
Yeah. Um It's a lot slower. I have to kind of slow down a lot more. Where I'm still nursing her, so that's, a good chunk of my day is like waking up and yeah, nursing for breakfast and lunch. And I mean, she probably eats 4 times a day and throughout the night. So that's like a new added aspect and just taking care of her and making sure she's not, getting into mischief and all of that. Um, and then just trying to work around it. I think I'm working a lot less than I was, I think. Um, but I also feel like I haven't slowed down that much. Like I'm still doing film shoots as much as I did before. I guess maybe I hand a little bit more of the work off to my husband than I did before. Like just the other day, she was just having all the attitude and I was supposed to have a consultation call with a client. And so I just was like, you've got to do it because I've got to handle her. And but luckily we're in the situation that we can do that and I can just kind
Mhm.
of hand some stuff off to her.
Yeah, that's beautiful that you and your husband are in this together and
Yeah.
work it as a team. So
Yeah.
what tell us a little more about your studio and what you really both do.
Yeah. We're both filmmakers. We met at film school in San Diego. We acted together a whole bunch and did theater together and then started dating 2 years into our friendship. And so right after we got married, we started our company and we do a lot. We do a lot of commercial work. That's like our main thing. That's our main clientele is we work with businesses to do a lot of, social media content, commercials, any sort of video content like website stuff. And then we also do short films and we do music videos. So for us, Yeah, 90% of our work is either pre-production or post-production, which is how we're working from home. So I do a lot of the pre-production stuff, which is, planning and building crews and hiring cast and talking with the clients to figure out what, the shoot is going to look like, what objectives are, all of that, scripting. And then the actual shooting days are only, a couple days out of the month where we have to actually go be on set. And
Hmm.
then we're in post-production, so that's just editing and um so yeah, it's kind of a really weird industry because we're working from home most of the time, and most of the time our days are really chill and we can balance parenthood and all of it together. And then we'll go be on like a 12 to 14-hour set day and
Hmm.
have to have her get watched, and it's just like crazy mayhem, but that's only 5-10% of the time.
Hmm. Hmm. So it's just part of the wild ride, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how does your faith influence what you do as a mom and as an artist?
Yeah. Um, I was thinking about that question. We do a lot of short films, like I said, and I tend to gravitate toward really like dark stories. And my faith kind of comes out in that way because I'm really drawn toward dark and twisted things and like what the consequences of evil are.
Mm,
So I tend to lean into stories like that, whereas I think a lot of like, Christian films are kind of the like glossy, perfect, like, I don't know.
can be
You think,
sanitized.
yeah, very sanitized stories. There's no swear words. There's no, and I understand like there's a line. Like I was just talking with a Catholic Catholic producer about like the morality of a sex scene, like is it ever actually necessary? Like as Catholic filmmakers, is that something we could ever, be a part of? Could you sign on to a project that has that kind of thing?
Hmm.
Because even if it's essential for the story, you have to remember that those actors have to do that. And
Hmm.
they're married, like what does that mean? So
Hmm.
it's a lot of things like that. But I feel like I am drawn toward dark stories because that is kind of what drew me toward my faith in the first place, if that
Oh,
makes sense.
yes. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, a great example happened just the other day. She finally got baptized and we invited my whole, like
Yay.
all my friends and family. None of our friends or family are Catholic. We are the odd men out. So it was a lot of people that didn't have like not really ever been in a church before. And one of our best friends is an atheist, and he he's watching the Conjuring movies with his girlfriend, and he said while he was there, he was like, man, we've been watching the Conjuring movies and that's supposed to be based off a true story, and if that's real then this must be real. And I was
Mm,
like, got it.
got
Like,
it.
you just said it.
Yes, how cool that
Yeah,
it's something dark. Yes, because I mean,
yeah,
really, how can the light show so brightly unless there's that dark in the
right,
darkness? And the
right,
darkness is really the absence of God, right? That's what's
exactly,
left when you take the light out. And
right,
so I love seeing contrast in films and in story where you get to see that light shines so much brighter when you see it in the
right,
context of the darkness.
right.
So I can definitely, especially as a writer, I can
Yeah.
resonate with that.
Well,
um,
and I think it's just like the best sort of warning because
yes.
have you ever watched a horror movie where they play with a Ouija board and it all just ends great, Like,
No,
and it doesn't
it's all
happen. Like,
shiny and perfect at the end, right? Yeah.
yeah, the
No.
the stereotypes for horror films is that like, the teenagers have sex and then all these like horrible things start happening, and like
Mm,
they play with a Ouija board thinking like it's a cool new agey thing to do, and there's massive consequences. And
mm,
so I get why a lot of Christians shy away from horror films and stuff, but I think the ones that are done right and that actually like paint evil in the right light
mhm.
are like truthful with what evil actually looks like, that those stories are, I mean, I think the Conjuring movies are Christian films. Like I really do. It's about possession and it's two Christians literally fighting a demon. Like that's the plot line. And the priest at our parish said that the Exorcist movie is like the thing that made him become a priest. Um,
Wow.
because he was so impacted by the priest in the film. I mean, the priest is the hero of the film, right?
Mhm.
And he's flawed and he's doubting his faith and he's struggling and he comes across this girl and he's the one he's like doubting and basically like he thinks she's faking it and thinks that it could be a mental illness and thinks the last thing it could be is a demon and then ends up having to face a demon and finds his faith again. And so like that film like made him excited to become a priest and stuff. So
Oh, that is, I see it, it's so, oh, see how these things can be work, they can work for the good. And I just get fired up.
exactly.
I get fired up talking about these things because I, it is a sensitive subject, especially in the Christian culture, right? That we should, that we can, I believe that the darkness in the stories is necessary.
Yeah.
Um, because without it, you just, I think that anybody who's living in reality and has experienced their own darkness
Yeah.
can't, they're not going to understand or feel understood
Right.
by an art that is void of darkness because we
Right.
all know darkness in our own lives, don't we?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
really, yeah, it's really interesting about The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I always am like, look at the Bible. Like,
Right, exactly. You want
the
to
Bible is full of every crime you could imagine, every
Mhm,
horrible thing you could do to another person. It happens in the Bible. And so it's like,
mhm.
why are Christians okay with that and like reading that and showing that to their kids? But like, a darker story that has darker themes is just like off limits and they're not willing to look at it.
Right,
I don't know. It's an interesting thing. And again, I get like you don't want your kid to be watching sex scenes or watching like
right.
violence. Totally get that. But
Mhm.
I think stories that deal with addiction or, sex out of marriage, like these stories are very real and they're stories that need to be told.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
so yeah, I find I am drawn toward a lot of kind of dark truthful stories. I came into storytelling through Shakespeare, and I was always very drawn to the tragedies because, like, what happens to Macbeth? Like, he's a war hero in the beginning. He gives in to evil. He listens to these three witches, and it completely ruins his life. And by the
Mhm.
end, he dies. And it's beautiful in that it shows the reality of darkness. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes, part of my story, which I haven't really shared on this show, is and how I started writing in the first place was to share the reality of evil uh, and what that can mean for our lives with my daughter, who is then 12, and I was hoping to prepare for middle school and high school, so I wrote a spiritual warfare novel
Right.
where the characters can see angels and demons, and I think it not acknowledging the reality of that is dangerous.
Hmm.
Because how can you win a battle you don't even know you're fighting, right?
Right.
So it's um, when these stories can be used, and of course it's like in proper context, right? And it's being aware of it and having conversations around these stories, right? Like if you're going to watch a dark movie with your, say, your tween or your teenager, right?
Yeah.
A lot of conversation can come out of that. But of course
Yeah.
we don't want to glorify the
No.
darkness either, or
No.
even give the demons too much power, right?
Right. Right.
So I love that you shared how that how Catholicism really can, and the understanding of it can infuse your work
Yeah.
with meaning in that way too. Yeah.
Yeah, I also feel like I'm drawn towards stories that ask questions more than give answers. And I don't know if I'm just like a philosopher at heart, but I didn't grow up in the faith. And so for me to find the faith through asking questions and doubting and having these really long, deep conversations with people, has allowed me to kind of own it more, I guess. One thing that drives me crazy in any sort of cinema is when they're like, this is what the film's about, and we're just gonna shove it down your throat for 2 hours.
Mm,
Like these are the morals, this is the agenda that we want to get across, and you're gonna know it outright.
yeah.
I really like more like subtle storytelling where by the end you might have more questions than you have answers, because I also feel like that's life, and I feel like that's a good thing. I think especially with the faith, if you are not grappling, if you're not asking
Mhm.
questions and wrestling with the faith, I mean, there are things that are very hard to understand. Like, you can't just like hear about the Eucharist and be like, yeah, got it. Like that
No
makes
questions at all. That's
perfect sense, right?
logical.
No, like
Totally logical.
you would not be a
Yeah.
human being if you weren't like, what? you know?
Right. But isn't
And
that so
so,
often what we expect of our children, right?
yeah,
That
exactly.
that we expect because you've grown up with it, that you can accept all of these things without
Right.
too many questions. I'm actually
Yeah.
in the process of writing a book right now, called No Doubt: Why Your Teen Questioning Their Faith is a Good Thing. Because
Wonderful.
yeah, so for me, not having enough answers as a teenager led me for a decade away from God. So I
Yeah.
didn't have the answers to the questions. I had so many questions and not enough answers. And
Right.
so I think, yeah, so the big part of what I'm doing is about, yeah, that search, and having questions is okay. It's
It's
actually
totally
good
okay. It's
because
really good.
yeah, but but the problem is when you have the questions, but you don't actually seek the answers,
Right.
right? When you leave it at a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think my favorite films are the ones that, you finish watching and you're up until 2 in the morning talking about, well, what did this mean? And what
Yeah.
did that mean? And like, why did this happen? Those are just my favorite types of movies because then I think it brings you together as people because then, yeah, you're seeking the answers and you go back and rewatch a scene and are like, oh, I didn't see this the first time. And this makes so much more sense now. And anyway, those are the types of stories that I like because if I'm going to tell a dark story and it's going to have Christian themes in it, I don't want people to feel choked by it, I guess.
Hmm.
Sense.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So I know this has been a great topic, but I would love to hear more about like what your business looks like in your marriage, and with
Yeah.
your family dynamic, and what maybe some of your biggest blessings and challenges are for your marriage as running this business together.
Yeah. The blessings for sure outweigh the cons, which is great. Um, I think the biggest blessings are that we get to share the passion of what we do together. It's filmmaking is such a huge part of who I am that I kind of always knew that I needed someone that at least understood it, if not loved it too.
Mhm.
And so I kind of seeked out somebody that got it. Because acting is a weird thing. And like I said, like working in the film industry is so weird. Like, who wants to go do 16-hour days, 3 days in a row? Like, only crazy artists. Um, so I think getting to share the love of what we do is amazing. Like, that's one of the biggest blessings, and that we get to understand each other on that level. As like, yeah, as creatives and as artists. Um, And we just, you want to be part of it. You have so much to say.
You'll have much to say, yes.
Yeah. Um, we get to have a network together too, which is amazing. So pretty much all of our friends do film. We've got this huge, amazing community of filmmakers here. About maybe 10 really close friends that we see every week,
And
and
where are
we
you
get
located right now?
Boise,
And is that
Idaho.
where most of your work is then?
Yeah, that's where almost all our work is. Um, But yeah, so we get to work with people on sets that are like now some of our closest friends, and we get to share that community, which is really cool. I don't actually know really what it's like to have my own friends and his own friends because we just kind of have this cool, like we have a few, right? Like friends that we grew up with and whatever, but a majority of our friends we get to share, and so we get to have them over and share all of that friendship. So that's been really amazing. And then I'd say some of the biggest challenges have just been working from home. It's very hard to take the work hat off and
Yes, I
Yeah, and be able to relax and be able to just be husband and wife and not business partners. Um, I'm a bit of a workaholic, and
Mhm.
so it's very easy for me because I love it
Right,
to
when you're
just
passionate.
yeah, to just stay in that. And, it's 9 p.m. and we're winding down. And I'm like, oh, by the way, like, did you make this edit? Did you do this thing? And my husband will have to be like, babe, bedtime. Like, we'll worry about it tomorrow. So I'd say that's a big challenge. And especially with Lioness, with how we run the company, we're partners, but I do a lot of the like administrative work. So I do a lot of the emailing and the calling and the scheduling and all of that. And so in some ways, like I wouldn't say I'm his boss, but I kind of have to give him his tasks, if that makes sense.
Mhm,
And so that has been kind of a weird dynamic of almost being my husband's boss at times.
mhm.
That's kind of a challenge of how do I like tell you what to do when we're,
Okay.
partners in this.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say that's kind of a challenge, but ultimately, like I said, like doing it together is so much fun and it's so wonderful that we work through those things just fine.
Oh, that's so. What words of wisdom would you say, or encouragement for maybe another new mom who is trying to navigate this season with faith and confidence? What might you say to her if she is maybe pregnant right now,
Mm,
and is in business for herself, or
yeah.
what would you say?
I would say to have faith, first of
Mhm,
all. I have struggled a lot in my journey to, especially with finances, trust that God will always provide.
mhm,
We're very much on like a month to month basis of if we book a client this month, we're going to be great. And if we don't, it's going to be a rough ride. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So I can really struggle mentally to be at peace when we're not sure if we're going to get a deal or something like that.
mhm.
And so that's been something I've been working on a ton. And ultimately, my husband is amazing. He's so wonderful with his faith that he always is just like, I don't get why you're stressing about it. Either we're going to get the deal or we're not. And why are you worried? Like God's going to provide. We're going to figure it out no matter what. And so I think he's been a huge influence for me on that. And I only feel like in the last couple months that I've been in a place where I have just blindly had faith. And so far, like the thing is, it's never been so terribly wrong. Like we've never been on the brink of being homeless or anything.
Mhm.
And so I kind of had this realization of being like, why am I stressing out so much when even if it's the last day of the month, quite literally, we just signed a deal today. It always pulls through and like God always provides. And so I would say, like, try your best not to stress. God will provide. You'll figure it out. Last year, I had to go take a serving job for 6 months, and it just was what it was. And we had to do it. And then I was able to quit and go back full time. Like, you're always going to figure it out. And so don't spend too much time in stress and anxiety because God's going to help you figure it
Right, if
out.
we can look back in the past and see how much he's shown up for us already, why should we look to
Exactly.
the future with fear, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Um, and then I would also say don't let other people tell you what motherhood should be.
Mm.
I think that I was very influenced by the media growing up of what motherhood would be like. That, oh, I know you want the necklace so bad. Um, yeah, I know. I know. You can play with it. That's fine. Um, I was very influenced by the media that I like firmly believed that if I had a kid, my life would be over and that I would have no career and I would have no social life and that I would be a stay-at-home mom prisoner thing that I feel like is often displayed, you
Oh,
know?
yeah. I've heard
Um,
that. I've heard that so many
yeah.
times. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that. If you want to be the beautiful 1950s stay-at-home wife, then cool. Like you can absolutely do that. If you don't want to and you want to work also, that's also okay. And you're just gonna figure it out. But I think that I had so many people tell me what motherhood needed to be, and that I would no longer have my passions and I would no longer be able to prioritize my social life and all of these things that just aren't true because they're not true for me. Like,
Mhm.
we see our friends every week and we still go and get a drink with people when we want to and get a babysitter and like, um nothing has really come to a stop. Things have changed for sure. Like, and my priorities have changed. And like I said, I've slowed down maybe a little bit in how much I'm working, but I don't feel like I can't have the career that I want to have. I don't feel like I can't have the social life that I want to have. Like, it just changes a little bit. It means a little bit more pre-planning. We can't go get drinks right now.
Right.
To go get drinks next Friday so I can get a sitter, like
Right.
it doesn't have to be a life-ending thing. And the last bit of advice I would give is that it's okay to ask for help. And I'm a super independent person. I like to do everything myself. If I don't do it, someone's going to do it wrong. And I've had to really have a lot of grace to ask for help. And it's okay to ask for my dad to come watch her or my sister to come watch her. Um, and I think that's been a little bit of a challenge for me to like be like, hey, I can't do it right now. Can you just come over and hold her so I can get the dishes done?
All right.
And my family is so gracious that they don't think anything of it.
Mhm.
Where I think I would be like a burden asking that. They're like, "Oh yeah, I really miss you guys. I haven't seen you all week. I would love to come hang out for a while and help you clean your house and whatever. So yeah, that would be my last thing is like you're not a burden asking for help. That's what people are
Mm.
there for. That's what family is there for. That's what true friends are there for. The other day, a good friend of mine knew that I was sick. I had a cold, a tiny little cold, and he just texted me and was like, "Hey, do you want me to come watch the baby so you can take a nap for an hour?" And I was like, that is the most thoughtful thing. Like just out of the blue. So like if you have true good friends in your life, if you have true good family that you trust, it is okay to ask for help. And if anything, people want to help.
Right. Yeah, it's an opportunity for them as well to grow in grace and
Right.
charity. So if none of us needed anything, how would any of us get to heaven? Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, Haley. That's the thing, everybody, this week. There's your homework. Uh, identify something that you really could use help with. Something maybe you really need a date with your husband. You need to get out there, or you need a little time. You need a nap. This
Yeah.
is your homework. It's okay to ask for help. It's good. It's completely fine. Go this week, schedule yourself, ask for help, and drop it in the chat and let us know how this podcast has helped you or maybe reframe your thinking around that needing help or anything else you heard today, because we would love to stay in touch. And on that note, Haley, where can everybody stay in touch with you?
Yeah. So I'm over on Instagram. Lioness Studios Films is where you can find all of my film stuff. We also have a website, but I'm terrible at updating it. But it's lionessstudiosfilms.com if you want to check that out. And then we're also on YouTube. Lioness Studio, I think it's just Lioness Studios, or maybe it's Lioness Studios Films as well on there. And we're part of a film collective called Sundown TV, where you can find a lot of our films, but also the films that our friends are making and that we're helping make on the side as well.
Wonderful. And as always, you all can stay connected with me, Verity Lucia, on Instagram and Facebook under author.verity.lucia and through my newsletter found on my website, verityluciabooks.com. And remember, if you're looking for fast-paced, engaging stories for your teens, please check out my books, Hidden, Don't Fear the Unseen, and Secrets the Truth Will Out, available on Amazon. Haley, thanks again for joining me today.
Thank you. It was
Yes,
awesome.
awesome. And we'll see you all soon.